A ruthless biker roars into a peaceful ranch, his engine blasting and his arrogance palpable. He spots a majestic Mustang grazing nearby and, driven by twisted amusement, delivers a brutal kick to the horse without cause. However, the horse's owner, Miguel, is watching, and what happens next will forever change the concept of justice. The golden light of late afternoon bathes the wide pastures of Spirit Haven Ranch, a refuge for Mustangs saved from harsh conditions. The expansive fields stretch endlessly, bordered by white fences and dotted with colorful wildflowers. Horses of all shades roam freely, moving in harmony against the picturesque backdrop. Among them is Spirit, a striking black Mustang with a flowing mane and commanding presence. He embodies the spirit of resilience and freedom, his every movement a testament to his strength. Miguel, the ranch owner, leans against a wooden fence, his weathered hands gripping the rail as he watches Spirit gallop across the field. A former rodeo star, Miguel had left the limelight for the peace of ranch life, dedicating himself to rescuing and rehabilitating Mustangs. Spirit had been his first rescue, a starved and abandoned horse Miguel found in the desert years ago. Through patience and care, Miguel gained Spirit's trust, and their bond became unbreakable. As the sun dips low, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Miguel's peaceful observation is interrupted by a distant rumble. At first, it's a faint sound, blending with the wind's soft whispers, but soon it grows louder, the unmistakable growl of a motorcycle racing through the countryside. Miguel stands up, narrowing his eyes, scanning the horizon. The biker comes into view, clad in black leather and dark sunglasses. The man exudes arrogance, his every action deliberate as he rides toward the ranch, kicking up dust as he skids to a halt near the fence. Miguel remains still, observing from a distance, his instincts sharp with discomfort. Something about the man's demeanor feels wrong, a disdain that contrasts sharply with the peaceful ranch. Spirit, ever alert, trots closer to the fence, his dark eyes focused on the stranger. The biker dismounts, boots crunching on the gravel as he moves toward the fence, leaning casually against it, his gaze locked on Spirit. Miguel's unease deepens, sensing a predatory glint in the biker's eyes. Spirit, unaware of the danger, steps forward with a mix of curiosity and grace. The other horses follow at a cautious distance, their instincts keeping them wary of the stranger. The biker's smirk widens as he stretches out a hand, not to pet Spirit, but to test how close the Mustang will come. Miguel clenches his fists, recognizing the danger. His years of experience with animals have taught him to trust his instincts, and everything about this man feels wrong. But before Miguel can intervene, the biker suddenly lifts his boot and kicks Spirit harshly in the side. The sound of the impact echoes across the field, and the Mustang stumbles back, his proud posture faltering as confusion and pain flash in his eyes. The other horses scatter, reacting to the unexpected violence, while the biker laughs, a hollow, cruel sound that fuels Miguel's rage. From his vantage point, Miguel's face hardens as he steps away from the fence. His mind races with fury and resolve. The biker, still laughing, turns toward his motorcycle, oblivious to Miguel's presence. But the ranch owner isn't one to let such cruelty go unchallenged. Miguel heads to the barn with determined steps, his mind focused on how to respond. Inside, he gathers his thoughts, calm despite the fire raging within. Spirit, who represents everything Miguel values, has been hurt for no reason other than the biker's sadistic pleasure. This cannot go unanswered, not just for Spirit, but for the moral principles Miguel holds dear. Inside the barn, Miguel grabs his phone and calls Marco, one of his ranch hands who lives nearby. Marco is young, but trustworthy, and shares Miguel's passion for horses. Minutes later, Marco arrives, his truck kicking up a cloud of dust as he pulls into the barn. He steps out, concern furrowing his brow when he sees Miguel's stern expression. "What happened, boss?" Marco asks, sensing something is wrong. Miguel quickly explains the situation, and Marco's anger mirrors his own. "Who does something like that to a horse?" Marco mutters, his fists tightening. "What do we do now?" Miguel's gaze drifts to Spirit, who stands grazing by the fence, his strong form returning to normal despite the lingering pain. "We make sure he learns a lesson," Miguel says firmly. But not with anger, justice. Miguel recalls a detail. When the biker was leaving, he noticed a small sticker on the back of his motorcycle that displayed the name of a local biker club. It's not much, but it's enough for Miguel to track the man down. After making some calls, Miguel identifies the biker as Lucas, a drifter notorious for causing trouble wherever he goes. Back at the ranch, Miguel prepares for the next step. He approaches Spirit, who continues to graze peacefully, seemingly unaffected by the earlier incident. Miguel's gentle hand rests on the Mustang's neck as he whispers soothing words. Spirit responds with a soft nickering, his bond with Miguel unbroken. With Marco's help, Miguel loads Spirit into the trailer, taking care to ensure the Mustang is comfortable. Marco climbs into the driver's seat while Miguel sits beside him, his eyes focused ahead. The drive into town is quiet but tense with purpose. Miguel isn't out for revenge, he simply wants Lucas to understand the consequences of his actions. As they near the local biker bar, Miguel feels the atmosphere shift. Marco parks a short distance away, and the two men get out, leaving Spirit securely in the trailer. Miguel steps into the bar, and the room quiets as his presence commands attention. The dimly lit space hums with conversation and clinking glasses, but everything shifts when Lucas spots Miguel. The biker leans back in his chair, a mocking smirk returning to his face. Well, Lucas drawls, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Looks like the rancher wants to chat. Miguel's face remains impassive, but his voice is cold and sharp. You hurt my horse, he says, his words firm and deliberate. The room falls into an uneasy silence, sensing the rising tension. Lucas shrugs, unaffected. It's just a horse. What's the big deal? Miguel steps closer, his gaze unwavering. It's not just a horse, he replies, his voice steady with conviction. It's a living being, and what you did was wrong. You don't get to walk away from that. Lucas scoffs, his arrogance still unshaken. What are you gonna do about it, old man? Miguel's lips curl into a small but determined smile. You'll find out, he says, turning and walking out of the bar without another word. Lucas laughs, but a flicker of unease crosses his face. What is Miguel planning? The noise in the bar returns as Lucas and his friends continue their revelry, unaware of the tension outside. Meanwhile, Miguel and Marco wait in the truck, watching the bar from a safe distance. Miguel remains calm on the surface, but the fire inside him burns hotter with every passing minute. Spirit is more than just a horse, he's family, and Miguel will not let this cruelty go unanswered. Marco breaks the silence. What's your plan, Miguel? You walked in there like you had something in mind. Miguel taps his fingers on the dashboard, eyes fixed on the bar's door. We let him think he's untouchable for now, he says. Then we remind him that his actions have consequences. As they talk, Lucas and his friends stumble out of the bar, their laughter echoing in the night. Lucas revs his engine, swinging onto his motorcycle as his friends shout drunken goodbyes. Miguel's eyes narrow as he starts the truck. Follow him, he tells Marco, who nods without hesitation. They tail Lucas through winding country roads, eventually watching him pull into a dilapidated cabin at the edge of town. The property is scattered with rusted cars and junk, and the faint light from the cabin porch barely illuminates the disarray. Miguel takes note of the location before signaling Marco to turn back. Back at the ranch, Miguel and Marco discuss their next steps. Miguel is a man of principles. He believes in justice, not violence. He needs Lucas to fully comprehend the weight of his actions, not just for Spirit, but for all living beings that deserve respect. The following morning, Miguel walks out to the pasture where Spirit grazes calmly with the herd. The Mustang's noble stance is restored, but Miguel still notices the faint bruise from Lucas's boot. As Miguel approaches, Spirit gently nudges his hand with his muzzle. Miguel runs his hand over the horse's smooth coat and whispers, "We'll make this right, boy." Miguel's plan is clear yet impactful. Make Lucas understand the consequences of his actions. Over the years, Miguel has developed a strong network of animal advocates, including veterinarians, rescue organizations, and even local law enforcement. He reaches out to them to share Spirit's story, and the response is swift and supportive. Miguel also calls in a favor from an old friend who works for the local news. By the end of the day, a camera crew is at the ranch. Miguel tells Spirit's story, speaking with emotion, though his words are measured. This isn't just about Spirit, Miguel says to the camera. It's about respecting life, no matter the size or species, human or animal. The story airs that evening and spreads rapidly on social media and through local news. The video of Miguel and Spirit, combined with Lucas's cruel act, sparks outrage. People's comments condemn Lucas while praising Miguel's defensive spirit. The pressure on Lucas grows, and Miguel knows he's close to making him realize his mistake. The next day, Miguel gets a call from the sheriff. Lucas has been pulled over for reckless driving, and the sheriff saw the news. "We had a conversation," the sheriff says. "He's not as cocky as before. I think he's starting to understand." Miguel nods with a small smile. "Good, but I want him to fully face the consequences. Can you bring him to the ranch? There's something he needs to see." The sheriff agrees, and Miguel heads back to the barn where Spirit stands. He places a hand on the horse's neck, looking into his eyes. "This isn't over, but it will be soon," Miguel murmurs. The sun is high when the sheriff's truck pulls into the ranch, raising a cloud of dust. In the back seat sits Lucas, his sunglasses resting in his lap. His usual cockiness is replaced with a mixture of annoyance and discomfort. The media backlash has affected him more than he anticipated. The sheriff makes it clear this is serious. Miguel stands by the barn, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Spirit grazes nearby, his black coat glimmering under the sun. The sheriff steps out, nodding at Miguel, and Lucas follows, his steps slower as he processes the situation. "I brought him," the sheriff says, giving Lucas a pointed look. "He's your responsibility now, within reason." Miguel walks toward Lucas, locking eyes for a brief moment. Neither speaks, but the tension between them is thick. Finally, Miguel asks, "Do you know why you're here?" Lucas shrugs, attempting to reclaim his bravado. "You're upset about your horse. It was just a dumb move, no big deal." Miguel tightens his jaw but remains calm. "It's not just about the horse," he says. "It's about respect for all life, responsibility, and the consequences of our actions. What you did wasn't just a mistake, it was cruel." Lucas looks away, the words cutting deeper than he wants to admit. Miguel gestures to Spirit, who stands at a distance, watching with quiet curiosity. "That's Spirit," Miguel continues. "He's not just a horse to me, he's a survivor. I found him starving and abandoned, left to die in the desert. I gave him a second chance, and he became the heart of this ranch. And you thought it was okay to hurt him." Lucas glances at Spirit, seeing the strength in the horse's posture. Spirit's deep, intelligent eyes seem to pierce through him, making Lucas feel shame for the first time. Miguel leads Lucas into the barn, signaling for him to follow. Inside, the air is cool and filled with the sounds of horses shifting in their stalls. Miguel stops in front of a display with framed photos that show Spirit's rescue and recovery. One photo shows the emaciated horse Miguel found in the desert, unrecognizable as the proud Mustang outside. "This is what Spirit looked like when I found him," Miguel explains, pointing to the photo. Lucas stares at it, his cockiness vanishing. "And this," Miguel adds, gesturing to another photo of Spirit looking healthy and strong, "is what he became." That's the power of kindness and effort. Lucas shifts uncomfortably, realizing the full extent of his actions. "I didn't know," he mutters, his voice barely audible. Miguel looks at him steadily. "You didn't think. That's the problem. But you can make it right if you take responsibility." Lucas frowns, confused. "What do you mean?" Miguel steps closer. "I want you to work here, spend time with the horses. Learn what it takes to care for them, and maybe you'll learn something about respect." Lucas opens his mouth to protest, but Miguel cuts him off. "Or you can explain your actions to the judge, your choice." Lucas hesitates, his pride fighting against the reality of his situation. After a moment, he sighs and agrees. "Fine, I'll do it." Miguel nods with approval. "Good, we start tomorrow." As Lucas exits the barn, Spirit approaches cautiously, his eyes studying the man who hurt him. Lucas freezes, unsure how to proceed. Would Spirit ever forgive him, or was this just the first step toward redemption? The morning sun shines over Spirit Haven Ranch as Lucas arrives for his first day of work. He's reluctantly agreed to Miguel's terms, but his usual swagger has disappeared. Dressed in borrowed boots and gloves, he feels out of place but is determined to face the consequences. Miguel greets him with a nod, his expression neutral. "Today you'll start where everyone does, cleaning stalls," Miguel says, handing Lucas a pitchfork and gesturing to the barn. Lucas mutters under his breath but takes the tool and heads inside. The smell hits him immediately, and he grimaces at the task ahead. He looks to Miguel, expecting a lecture or a smirk, but Miguel simply watches him with quiet anticipation. As Lucas works, he notices the horses watching him from their stalls, their eyes following his every move. For the first time, he feels guilty for what he did to Spirit. He remembers the Mustang's gaze after the kick, how it wasn't just pain but betrayal in those deep eyes. Later, Miguel calls Lucas over to help brush Spirit. The black Mustang stands tall in the pasture, his shiny coat reflecting the sunlight. Lucas hesitates, nervous about getting too close. "He won't hurt you," Miguel reassures him. He remembers. Lucas takes the brush with shaky hands and cautiously approaches Spirit. The Mustang's ears flick, and he turns to look at Lucas. For a moment, man and horse lock eyes, the tension palpable. Slowly, Lucas begins brushing Spirit, his movements unsure at first but becoming more confident. As he continues, something shifts within him. Spirit doesn't flinch or back away. He allows Lucas to care for him. This small act feels monumental as Lucas starts to understand the bond between Miguel and his horses. Days turn into weeks, and Lucas's responsibilities at the ranch expand. He feeds the horses, repairs fences, and even learns to walk Spirit around the pasture. Each task brings him closer to the animals he once dismissed as mere horses. He begins to see their personalities, their intelligence, and the trust they place in the people who care for them. One evening, as the sun sets, Miguel invites Lucas to sit on the porch overlooking the fields. Spirit grazes peacefully in the distance, his mane blowing gently in the breeze. "You've come a long way," Miguel says. "But tell me, what have you learned?" Lucas stares at the field, his thoughts heavy. "I learned they're not just animals," he says quietly. "They feel things, they trust us to care for them, and we owe them that." Miguel nods, a faint smile appearing. That's a good start. The quiet moment is interrupted by hoofbeats. Spirit approaches them, his eyes locked on Lucas. The Mustang stops a few feet away, unflinching. Lucas stands still, unsure of what to do. "Go on," Miguel encourages. Lucas cautiously reaches out, his hand trembling as he places it gently on Spirit's neck. The Mustang doesn't move, allowing the connection. For the first time, Lucas feels acceptance. Spirit senses the change in him, the remorse replacing arrogance. As Spirit nuzzles his hand, Lucas feels an unexpected warmth in his chest. Is this the start of redemption or just the first step toward forgiveness? The ranch is peaceful at dawn as Lucas arrives for his final day. Over the past weeks, his perspective has changed entirely. Spirit Haven Ranch, once a place of punishment, has become a space of growth, reflection, and peace. Lucas walks to the barn, where Miguel is already working with the horses. The older man looks up, his expression unreadable. "Morning," Miguel says simply. "Morning," Lucas replies, his voice carrying a humility that wasn't there before. Miguel hands Lucas a halter and nods toward Spirit, grazing in the nearby pasture. "Let's see what you've learned," he says. Lucas hesitates, but only briefly. He walks toward Spirit, halter in hand. Spirit lifts his head as Lucas approaches, his eyes fixed on him. For a moment, Lucas feels guilt, but he pushes it aside. This is about trust, earning it and respecting it. "Hey boy," Lucas murmurs as he reaches Spirit. His voice is calm, and his movements are deliberate. Spirit doesn't flinch or retreat as Lucas slips the halter over his head. The Mustang stands still, his strength radiating, and Lucas leads him back to the barn. Miguel watches as Lucas returns with Spirit, his eyes sharp. When Lucas secures Spirit in the grooming station and begins brushing him with confidence, Miguel finally speaks. "You've changed," he says. Lucas stops and looks at Miguel. "I didn't think I would," he admits. "But this place, these horses, they taught me something." "And what's that?" Miguel asks, though he already knows. "That they're not just animals," Lucas replies, his voice steady. "They're like us in many ways. They feel, they trust, and they deserve respect." Miguel nods, satisfied. "That's what I hoped you'd learn." Later, Miguel gathers everyone at the ranch for a small celebration. Spirit stands at the center, his glossy coat gleaming in the sunlight. Miguel speaks, his words meaningful. Spirit represents what this ranch is about, second chances, for horses and people alike, he says, glancing at Lucas. "What you've done here isn't just about fixing a mistake. It's about proving that change is possible." Lucas feels a lump in his throat as the ranch hands cheer. For the first time in years, he feels genuine pride, earned and humble. As the day winds down, Lucas approaches Miguel. "Thank you," he says. for giving me a chance, for not turning me in. Miguel watches him for a moment. I didn't do it for you, he responds. I did it for Spirit and every horse mistreated. But you proved me right. You're not the same person who came here. Lucas nods, his jaw tight with emotion. I'll do better. Miguel replies, I know you will. Before leaving, Lucas walks to the pasture to say goodbye to Spirit. The Mustang nuzzles his shoulder in acceptance. Thanks, buddy, Lucas whispers, for teaching me what I didn't even know I needed to learn. As Lucas drives away from the ranch, the weight of his past actions remains, but a sense of purpose follows him. He's not just leaving Spirit Haven Ranch, he's leaving behind his former self. This journey shows that change is possible and second chances can transform lives. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of redemption and connection, reminding us that respect for all life matters.